This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Hey, happy U.S. Open week.
Yeah, I tell you, have you seen the course yet? It is a spectacular-looking Los Angeles Country Club. They've never had really anything there except the way backs, and then I think they had the Pac-12 championship and maybe a Walker Cup that some of the guys have played. I think Morikawa's played competitively there. I think maybe Rahm did in college. Max Homa is an L.A. guy who's got a lot of experience there. But, man, it's just, they've got these run-up shows on the Golf Channel at night, and I'm just mesmerized by the views. It's right, really sort of downtown Los Angeles, but the Barranca and everything, and they got 5 par 3s. Matt, there's going to be a hole that's 78 yards one day, like maybe Saturday.
Yeah.
And it is so tight. They're talking about like a 1.5 yard landing area.
Wow.
And
Ricky just spin off, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, well, he said yesterday because there's a bunker and the sand is soft, and so he may try to play just to the right of the green and try to chip up and down there rather than, I think you can probably hit it 25 feet above the hole and maybe it'll come down, but it's got some really interesting looking holes, and I think it's kind of cool for the U.S. Open to go somewhere new like that.
Yeah,
the holes new.
I saw they had a 290-yard par 3 on there, but it plays a little downhill. And the one thing I saw, Grant, was they have wider fairways, but it looked like you kind of hit it in the wrong side of the fairway, and it's just going to roll down to a collection area.
Yeah, and one thing they said last night, they were showing the 12th hole, which I think is 380 uphill, but much, so it plays longer. But there was a guy that said he thought that hole would play to a higher stroke average than the par 5 first hole. So I mean, it's you got to hit the fairway on some of them. It's not. I think therefore it might not favor. Here lately, it feels like a basher wins most of these majors. Koepka, somebody like that, but because I heard Rory say that I think the 6th, 7th, and 8th holes are all 5 woods off the tee for him, and so you're going to have to, it's some of the fairways are wide, but they play more narrow than that, and they got this Bermuda rough, which some of these guys, some of these young players have never played Bermuda rough in the U.S. Open. It seems amazing because we have a lot of it around here, but that stuff is thick, as you know.
I do want to get your thoughts on the NBA Finals that wrapped up. We both had them in 5. Do you see a new? I mean, they talk about a new way of playing, and Phil brought this up that Jokic is a lot like Magic Johnson. If you look back 30 years ago, and they do have the same vision. They do pass the ball really well. Do you see that being a thing where they're looking for this 6'9", 6'11" guy that can get the rebounds and just start the break and be the point guard right away?
Yeah, I mean, people even talk about the diminishing role of centers or, traditional centers in the NBA. And it's interesting. I read this thing today that Jokic at one point was overweight, I guess, when he was coming up. But I thought that, it really, the game the other night, Game 5, came down to, it looked like Miami might steal that one. Mm-hmm. And were you watching when they gave Butler 3 free throws on a play where I still haven't seen the foul?
When he kicked his foot out he jumped extra high than he usually doesn't jump that high. He knew Butler's savvy, man. He's the smartest guy out there, and he knew exactly what he was doing. And it looked like, and I don't want to say this, but it did look like the refs kind of were slanting that way in Game 5. Like, hey, if we get a Game 6, and
that's what I thought, man.
Right.
When I saw that, and because they replayed, I mean, they challenged it, and they still, kept the call the way it was. And I'm thinking, well, they just want another game for revenue, But the Denver won it anyway, and then the NHL ended last night too. So we're down to the College World Series, Phil. And I wanted to point out, ORU has got this guy Jonah Cox with a 47-game hitting streak. It's the 3rd longest in NCAA history. I remember Dave Magadan at Alabama years ago. I want to think that he had one really long.
Ventura
and then they've got
had the one that's the record, right? It's like
that Robin
games.
Ventura. That's right. Maybe those are the 2 guys. I don't know, but ORU has got two guys. Their shortstop, second baseman are from Springdale Harbor. Mac McCroskey hitting 310, 13 homers, 62 runs batted in, is the shortstop, and Blaze Brothers is also hitting over 300, the second baseman. So, and I think there may be another Springdale connection on that team, but that's a team, that's not been since 1978. Larry Koshel was the coach back then, and he later took two other teams to the College World Series. But it's obviously been a long time, and I think I read that they're the first 4 seed to get there since maybe Stony Brook. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that was 2012. Yeah, and Fresno State won the title as a 4 seed coming out in I think it was 2008, and they had to win their conference tournament just to make it. I guess the same would have been for ORU, though. That's the dominant team in the Summit League. It's just a surprise to see them really just make it through a regional, just because of the level of the rest of the Summit League. But that's a great program. But there's an obvious side of the bracket that's just a lot tougher. I think Florida or TCU comes out of bracket 2 or bracket 1, and just looking at talent level, Florida might be the most talented team out there. The other side, I mean, it's a tough. That's as much of a meat grinder on a bracket as I've ever seen since I've paid close attention to the College World Series with Wake and LSU and Stanford and Tennessee. I mean, I'd say probably Stanford is the team that's least talented of all of them, and they're incredibly talented. So I don't know what comes out of that side.
They got a gift the other night when those two outfielders and I guess even two infielders, either lost sight of the ball or somebody else was going to catch it. I mean, that's the way that Texas traditionally has won games in all sports. We can think of many examples that way, with just maddening ways, and they lost. I heard Clay talking about it yesterday. They lost that one that way. But it's funny. The Oregon team that looked like might beat ORU still has not been there since 1954. And I noticed that they didn't even have a program from 1981, I guess, to 2009. So it looked like you could have different Cinderellas. I think TCU with an 11-game winning streak is playing as well as anybody. I mean, clearly we saw it. And Florida had to, they had to come through. They lost to Texas Tech, and then I think beat them twice. So that probably shows that they've got enough pitching to do this thing.
Well, and I feel the same way about Tennessee. They had to come. They winning a road regional at Clemson, 14-inning game. The opponent used 10 pitchers. I think Tennessee used 2. They give me the Ole Miss vibes from last year, of a team that's more talented than their seeding showed in the national tournament, and it really shows once they get there that they're battle tested and ready to go. I just still don't know if that matters much in a division in a bracket that includes the 2 top overall picks in the draft. What you expect would be another one. The pitcher from Wake Forest. I mean, he may end up going as early as anybody else outside of Skeens and Cruz. Wake has this lineup that routinely is scoring 15, 17 runs in the postseason. That's just it's a meat grinder. I don't know what comes out of that. I just know that that's the side that's got the most talent. The thing about Oregon, you notice you said Oregon didn't have a team again until 2009. That was just a couple of years after Oregon State won their back-to-back national titles. So the in-state school, the other in-state school, the flagship school saw that. It was like, I think we got to have a baseball team now, and they haven't reached that level.
Well, I heard you say you weren't going to watch it, and then you did, and we'll end up watching some of it. But it was Arkansas swept Tennessee, and it was a strange weekend. I thought, Bill, in that Tony Vitello was on his best behavior. I mean, it was as if none of this other stuff had ever happened. He was very cordial with the media because he had to be disappointed, but they lost these games.
Well, I think that part of it, Grant, is I think that was the time that Tennessee wasn't sure who they were. That they couldn't be boisterous and they couldn't be chest pounding because they weren't sure who they were then. Their pitching wasn't as good as it should have been at that point. It is now. They weren't scoring runs the way that they usually were used to. They still don't quite have that same lineup from last year. They're back to being the boisterous, chest-thumping guys that they were the year before, even though it's a different team. I just think it had a lot to do with they were just confused as to who they were. Hey, so how much time are you putting into watching the schedule release tonight? And how much time are you put into thinking what the schedule will look like? Or do you just like, all right, I guess we'll see who the SEC screws Arkansas with?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it like everyone else and be intrigued by it, but I'm gonna spend no time worrying or thinking about it until then. It's just, to me, that's just counterproductive. Somebody will come and tell us, right, or we can watch it while it's happening.
Yeah, we got this daunting schedule in front of us right now. We gotta worry about. Grant, I want to get. I got Ricky Fowler. I kind of like John Rahm. Give me 2 picks. Give me 3 picks who you think could win the U.S. Open.
I would, the guys I mentioned earlier, I would maybe look at Morikawa. He's had a back injury, and when you watch him tee off this week, he's going to have to kind of squat down but he says his back is fine. He's so precise as an iron player.
Mm-hmm.
I like him. I think, again, Homa, because he's from out there, wouldn't be in addition to all the obvious ones, that everyone would look at. And then if you want a really long shot, Taylor Moore is there from the University of Arkansas. One of 3 guys, Echeverria and Mateo Fernandez de Oliveira are in it also. But Taylor is about as good a long iron player, medium to long iron player, as there is out there. And that's what his dad told me, and I got to see it firsthand at Augusta. So I'm rooting for him this week, along with the other
I didn't know that.
Guys.
Heck yeah, man. You got 3 Arkansas guys out there in the U.S. Open. Go Hogs.
Yeah, and Phil, I got one quick one for you.
Okay.
I don't have much time yet, but I saw where McCutcheon is the 5th active player with 2,000 hits in the major leagues. So that would be Cabrera, and does Altuve have 2,000 yet? I think Altuve is a guy that has a chance for 3,000. With about 4 or 5 more good years. And then I hadn't even thought, do you know who the other 2 might be in that?
So here, I'm looking at the list right here. The list starts with Miguel Cabrera, 3,111.
Right.
Joey Votto's got a little over 2,000. Nelson Cruz, 2,043. Elvis Andrus has 2,027 base hits.
Really?
Yes. And McCutcheon at 2,000.
He's a longtime Texas Ranger, right? Elvis Andrus?
Yeah, he came up with the Rangers, but
Yeah.
he's bounced around over
I remember
the last
him
couple
with
years.
the Rangers, yeah.
Long-time Ranger.
Was that Josh Hamilton and him in the outfield out there?
No, he was an infielder.
He's an
He was
infielder.
a shortstop.
Oh.
But he would have been on those teams. Would have been on some of those teams with Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, your Pirates are in first place, and the Cardinals until last night, they were 7-16 in 1-run games this year, and just were inventing different ways to lose. But last night, it looked like they finally just had let go of the rope. I mean, they got beat badly, and Ollie looked after the game like he didn't know what to do. And 27-41 is a deep hole, even though there's still a lot of season left.
And then some people will say it can't get any worse, and then some would say it's only the middle of June. It can most definitely get a lot worse.
Yeah, and Helsley's on the IL now, so that doesn't help anything either.
Wow.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from baseball and hockey to MLB, UFC, and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get all your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. Get in the action today. Head over to our website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive 50% bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.